Hello everyone, I am Dr. Dmitry and welcome to Dr. Dmitry's Dog Handler channel. I feel I should start my first video with a brief introduction, and I will certainly do that. However, I will start the introduction with the true star of the show, my golden boy, Bailey. I will not give him any comments here. Won't tell him to SAT or anything. I'll just open the sliding door, step outside. Well, he decided to SAT himself. I don't know. I don't think he can spell yet, but with this guy, I think anything's possible. Anyway, so here we go. Should be fun. Almost stepped on his tail. Maybe did step on his tail. That's my boy. That's my boy. Okay. Today we'll walk through some of the obedience open level exercises. Bailey and I will be going to a competition in 2 days, but it will be a rally, which is fairly different from formal obedience competition. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about obedience, rally, agility, and perhaps other dog and handler competitions on this channel. But generally with rally, you get to talk with your dog, and you're allowed to give multiple commands to your dog, while with obedience it's usually just one command. So if the dog is distracted for a moment, it could really throw the entire trial into a tailspin, pardon the pun. What we do here may look cool, but it's even more about the interaction between the dog and handler. Tricks are the easy part. Well, relatively easy part. There are, of course, easy tricks, and some behaviors are quite complex, but generally teaching a dog to perform some behavior is almost cookie cutter if you have a good relationship with your dog, I think. In this clip, notice the level of engagement, as can be expected from a golden retriever. And those who know Goldens know what I mean by that.
A few moments later.
Okay, doke, here we go. As promised, there's my dog Bailey in the background. He grabbed one of his favorite toys, enjoying the cooler weather, no doubt. So this is actually a good chance to test his, call it maybe secondary or tertiary recall. This is not a formal recall, but he performs it so well. Why not? So this is one that I do not hold him terribly accountable for on the first command, but second, third, I expect him to behave nonetheless. A formal recall, it's the expectation is already, you can see this. He's already aware of the teamwork, but anyway. So here we are doing a formal competition style heel. I will not correct him if he is not perfect, but I do expect at the very least nearly complete attention. We can always work more on healing, but I think we can find more valuable things to work on given our time constraints. Generally, we have two types of healing. We have the heel command, which itself has several variations, and we also have a with me command where Bailey is expected to walk in a sort of a bubble on my left side, but not nearly as strictly as with the formal heel.
Jump.
Here we have a jump while healing. It's not part of the obedience exercises, but it is something we'll be expected to do at the rally trials, so why not?
Sit. Down. Stay.
I love this quick down. Retrieve on the flat.
Bring. Give. Stay.
Here I'm just setting up the retrieve over high jump, but we will do the broad jump first.
Around. Sit. Stay. Jump. With. Sit. Bring. Give. With. Sit. With.
Here's some ad hoc command discrimination. Waist command here, but I like to mix it up with hand signals.
Down. Sit. Stay.
Next is a fun exercise called drop on recall.
Go in front. Front. Good job. Good job.
This is Bailey's reward, only reward during the session. He gets to interact with me. He gets to play tug with his favorite toy, but through me. So, at this point some of you may be asking, how is all of this useful to me and my dog? We are just trying to survive our daily walks. Well, here's a little spoiler alert for you. Here's Bailey and I on a walk. Above all, notice the loose leash. Everyone can have different ideas of what a perfect walk with their dog would be like. I personally like to give my dog the freedom to sniff around and be a dog on walks as much as possible. Occasionally, I may need him to walk next to me or switch sides to let someone pass, for example, or I may want to get back home in a hurry, so I'll ask him to walk next to me. But otherwise, he's allowed to explore as long as he does not stray far from me. At this point, the astute listener will have picked up on the fact that Bailey cannot get far away from me as he's on a leash. But I'll retort that the leash is just a formality at this point. It's more for keeping in line with the law, essentially. Remember, keeping a loose leash is not that far off from having no leash at all. Just put the leash around my neck so I free up my other hand. I've taught Bailey to stop at crosswalks without any commands at all, and not to cross without being given permission to do so.
With me.
So here I'll actually drop the leash before crossing the crosswalk.
Front.
Took the leash off and we'll be walking off leash the rest of the way. Please keep your dog on a leash unless you really know what you are doing, and trust your dog 100%. Remember, a dog is still an animal. Bailey has his impulsivity under control, but I would still not take any risks unnecessarily. And as I said, I walk him on leash unless we're formally training. I just use a longer 8-foot leash on our walks to give him a little more room to explore.
Billy, down. Yes.
You don't give him a treat just because he performed the down in motion so perfectly.
With me.
Okay, so that was the star of the show, and now on to me. I guess the sidekick. So my doctorate is in computing. So essentially, I'm probably okay with anything that has to do with computers of any kind and computing in general. My dissertation was in the area of biologically inspired machine learning. So I think there are indeed some parallels with dog handling there. We got Bailey about 3 years ago as a pup. He is now 3 years and 8 months old, I believe. One of my old running jokes is that I always wanted a large dog. I was thinking more along the lines of a German Shepherd or a Belgian Malinois, but my wife was afraid that the dog would eat the kids, and so we got the next best thing. And this story is probably not far from the truth. I always loved dogs, but honestly knew very little about them, much less about training one. Not long after we got Bailey, we hired a dog trainer who would come to our house, I think once a week. I recall at that time being amazed how someone who did not know my puppy could get him to go into his kennel or to sit or do some other tricks, but only some of the time. Well, Bailey proved to be quite a handful, tons of energy, curiosity, and confidence from the moment we first saw him. Everything you'd want in a working line golden retriever. However, dogs need to live in our world and thus abide by our rules. And unfortunately, our world and theirs are not always in alignment. Early on, I took Bailey to several dog training group classes, but was, I'd say, disheartened by lack of meaningful results. Not to mention being exhausted from dealing with my 75-pound athlete who absolutely could not keep focus for a minute, much less for an hour. Trying to keep Bailey from visiting adjacent dogs was a monumental struggle. I considered it a good day if my fingers and hands were not hurt in any way from holding on to the leash for dear life. I started taking Bailey to obedience and rally classes about a year ago as a way to improve his interpersonal skills. Bailey was never truly aggressive, but he was hard to handle at times. And I was looking for ways to work through his impulsivity and ADHD. And ended up catching the dog competition bug. So far, Bailey and I are doing rally and obedience competitions, but are considering agility at some point in the future as well. I noticed off the bat that Bailey was performing better than most dogs, but generally getting him to the ring and keeping him focused, especially with exercises without a leash, was a nightmare. And by the way, all but the novice level exercises are performed without a leash. I'd leave the competition a bundle of nerves. Still, Bailey would do sufficiently well at beginner level trials to eke out first place most of the time. So, in a nutshell, I am an old man with a doctoral degree, old at least according to my kids, and with a passion for dogs and dog training and dog handling in general. And I'm here to share what I have learned, what I'm still learning in my dog training journey, and to help us build a more rewarding relationship with our dogs. Okay, so this brief intro took a little while, but it had to be done. Welcome!